Samsung is a weird company. I mean, they were late to the party, they left super early, but in the 5 minutes they were here, they actually did some pretty cool stuff. Take the NX2000 for example. It was released back in 2013, but in some ways it's pretty ahead of its time. It has a 20 megapixel APS-C size sensor, Wi-Fi, and a 3.7-inch 1.1 million dot touchscreen that, in all honesty, kind of feels like using a modern smartphone. The screen is bright, clear, responsive, and really enjoyable to use, which is a good thing because there aren't a whole lot of physical buttons on this camera. It's largely a touch-based affair. Another bonus of Samsung's NX line is the lens selection. There are a ton of genuinely good lenses for this camera. Just in filming the sample footage for this video alone, I've been using the 16mm f2.4, the 45mm f1.8, and the 60mm f2.8 macro, just to name a few. In terms of video specs, the NX2000 is good, but not great. Got 1080p at 30 frames per second and 24 frames per second. Unfortunately, there's no 4K and there's no 60 frames per second either. And speaking of 24 frames per second, the NX2000, much like all of Samsung's NX cameras, has letterbox in 24 frames per second, whether you want it or not. It's just there. There's no way to change that. You know, and it's little things like that that kind of serve as a reminder that Samsung was targeting an inexperienced audience looking to upgrade from their smartphones. Kind of unfortunate because they actually caught the eye of a much more experienced crowd that saw just how good the image quality actually was. Those of you who've been subscribed to this channel for a while probably remember my friend Aida. She and I used to take this camera with us every day wherever we went just to document our daily lives. It's small, lightweight, compact, and no one really pays attention to it. You know, you can stand out in front of a coffee shop or a restaurant and take a picture with this camera without anyone really noticing you. People would treat this camera the way they would treat a smartphone. You couldn't really do stuff like that with the DSLR or a big professional mirrorless camera. Video on the NX2000 is the same. It looks absolutely amazing. Colors are nice and punchy straight out of the camera. I genuinely love the look of video from the NX2000. Autofocus on the NX2000 is another story altogether. See, it lacks the phase detect autofocus that the NX300 and NX500 have. Instead, it employs a contrast detect autofocus, which is, well, awful actually. And that's why I kind of moved on to other camera systems with more reliable autofocus and microphone inputs. But the thing is, I never really got over the NX2000. There's just always been something about the look and feel of the images from these Samsung cameras. See, and that's what's so frustrating about Samsung. They had so much potential and yet they just quit. To kind of illustrate a point, cameras tend to lose a significant amount of value over a period of time. That's kind of the premise of this whole channel. I like finding cameras that used to cost $1,000 or $2,000 and now only cost $100 or $200. I mean, look at the last video. The Nikon D50 was around $1,000 new and now it literally costs $30. But Samsung cameras haven't really lost their value. I mean, buying a used Samsung NX2000 now, you're paying the same price that you would have paid about 3 to 5 years ago, and that's just insane. But that kind of speaks to the cult following that these cameras have. If you own a Samsung camera, you just kind of get it. People who own Samsung cameras just kind of fall in love with the whole look and feel of the images they get, and I can't blame them. Anyway, I think that's all I've got for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.